They hit her without hesitation. In a room full of elite soldiers, they treated her like she didn't belong. They saw only a translator, not a threat, not a warrior. But when the war room pulled up her classified Navy SEAL file, the laughter stopped. Because the woman they humiliated wasn't weak. She was the last survivor of a mission everyone else tried to bury. And what happened next didn't just expose the truth, it rewrote everything they thought they knew. Before we begin, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you believe real strength speaks quietly, hit that subscribe button. You could hear a pin drop in that war room, not because of the tension, but because everyone already knew how this was going to go. Captain Amelia Cross stood at attention, heels locked, hands behind her back, spine straight like she'd been carved out of marble. She wore the uniform of a naval linguist and interpreter assigned to oversee international comms in this multinational NATO training hub tucked deep into the Norwegian mountains. They thought she was just another clipboard, someone to translate directives, not take hits. But Major Jack Rayner, bigger than life and twice as loud, decided otherwise. Jack had been running these simulations for years, priding himself on being the final filter for who was operator material. To him, Amelia didn't belong on the mat. She was a decoration, a participation trophy in a room meant for blood, sweat, and scars. So when she stepped forward and requested to join the close-quarters combat drill, the chuckles came fast. Smirks, raised brows, the kind of quiet mockery that says, "Who does she think she is?" And then he hit her. No warning, no setup, just a full-force elbow to the face. She dropped to one knee, but she didn't fall. The sound echoed sharp, raw, final. Major Jack Rayner's elbow caught her cheekbone with the kind of force that wasn't training anymore. It was an attack, hidden in plain sight, disguised as a demonstration. Everyone in the room heard it, that sickening crack of bone against bone, followed by a silence so complete, even the overhead fluorescents seemed to hold their breath. Captain Amelia Cross didn't scream, didn't crumble, didn't so much as raise a hand to the blood now spilling into her mouth. She simply knelt one knee down, spine still impossibly straight, eyes fixed on the mat in front of her. Her breath was even, measured. 4 count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out, 4 count hold. It was automatic, rhythmic, like her body was trained to remain calm under violence. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in her. No, Amelia didn't change. But the room did. Among the scattered observers lining the walls, British Special Forces, Danish intel officers. American analysts, there was one man who stepped forward, just slightly. Sergeant Leo Hart, a long-serving recon operator, narrowed his gaze. He'd seen that kind of composure before, but never from a translator. Her grip on the mat was too clean, her posture too deliberate. That wasn't the reaction of someone hurt or shocked. That was someone calculating. Jack Rayner, on the other hand, turned to the crowd like a chef who'd just nailed a complicated recipe. See, he barked, "Commitment. She's still conscious because I pulled the hit. In the field, that's a lights-out strike. Translators don't belong on this mat." He meant it as a lesson, a warning, a punchline. But no one laughed. From the control booth above, Colonel Isaac Granger watched the floor with a frown that grew deeper by the second. He didn't say anything at first. He didn't have to. The biometric scanners embedded in the room were already blinking red. Too much impact, too much force. Training was one thing. This wasn't training. And when he finally spoke, his voice carried like a rifle shot through still air. "Major Rayner, Captain Cross, stay where you are. Everyone else 15-minute break." The war room emptied faster than any drill ever had. You don't argue with a colonel's tone when it turns cold. As the door clicked shut behind the last observer, Granger descended the booth steps slowly, eyes locked on Amelia. She was standing now, straight and steady, blood down her chin, her eye already swelling, but her balance was flawless. "Captain," he said, quiet but clear, "do you require medical assistance?" She turned to him, eyes sharp. "Negative. Sir." "You're bleeding." "Observed, sir." Granger's jaw ticked, just once. Then he turned to Jack. "Major Rayner, explain to me why I just witnessed you elbowing a fellow officer in the face." She volunteered. "Sir," Jack said quickly, "I was demonstrating a real-world combat technique." "That," Granger said, pointing to the pulsing red on the biometric readout, "wasn't a technique. That was 87 pounds of force to the cheekbone." Jack blinked. "You demonstrated assault, Major." Jack bristled. "She's not combat-rated. She doesn't understand. She's an officer." Granger cut in, voice razor-sharp. "And by NATO protocol, she outranks you in theater." Amelia didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Because Granger's eyes had already shifted to the wall-mounted sensor array, where her blood had triggered a biometric flag, one that flickered red, one that triggered something deep in the system, an automatic archive scan. Something about her didn't match up. And now the base wanted to know why. As silence returned, Amelia calmly moved to the edge of the mat, retrieved her file folder, and walked toward the exit. "Captain," Granger called after her, almost hesitating, "you're entitled to file a formal complaint." She paused, turned slightly. "Respectfully, sir, accidents happen during training." Then she walked out, and left them all wondering why someone hit her like she was nobody, only to realize, far too late, that she wasn't nobody at all. They thought it ended with blood on the mat, but that was just the start. 3 hours later, the mess hall buzzed with its usual bad coffee and worse pasta, but something had shifted in the air. Conversations came in half-hushed tones. Heads turned when Captain Amelia Cross entered, a half-frozen ice pack pressed gently against the angry bruise blooming across her cheek. Her left eye swollen, dark, nearly shut, spoke louder than any words she could offer. She sat alone in the far corner, eating mechanically. Fuel, not flavor. No wasted movements. No visible emotion. And then came Major Jack Rayner. He strolled in with his entourage, the same junior officers who'd laughed earlier, who'd cheered louder when Amelia hit the mat. They trailed behind him like shadows, unsure whether to admire him or hide from what came next. He approached her table slowly, voice softer now, smoothed over, plastic. "Captain Cross," he said, forcing a smile. "How's the face?" She didn't answer at first. Just finished chewing, swallowed, then looked up. Functional. "Sir," Jack chuckled, trying to shift the air. "Look, about earlier. Things got a little intense. You know how drills are. Heat of the moment. No hard feelings. Right." She set her fork down. Slowly. "Are you apologizing?" "I'm saying we're professionals. These things happen." Amelia tilted her head just enough to make the bruise catch the light. Interesting perspective. Jack forced a grin, leaning in. "So, we're good. We're whatever the investigation decides, sir." The smile froze. One of the lieutenants coughed. "Captain, nobody wants to blow this up into something bigger. Like the major said, it was a drill." Amelia picked up her napkin, dabbed the side of her mouth. It came away faintly pink. "Lieutenant, when you file your witness statement, be sure to include that suggestion. The colonel may find it enlightening." Jack's fingers gripped the back of an empty chair. "You're making a mistake." "That's possible." She returned to her food. "But it's mine to make." They walked off, quick, angry steps. No jokes this time. Moments later, Someone else slid into the seat across from her. Sergeant Leo Hart. Recon, quiet, observant. He placed his tray down pasta. Bread roll hard enough to stop a bullet, and looked at her like he was studying a map no one else could read. That was subtle, he said, voice low. Subtlety is overrated, she replied. He leaned forward. Plastic knife sawing at the chicken. Raynor's not just ego. He's networked. Covered. You go after him. You're not fighting one man. You're challenging a system that protects him. I'm aware. Leo dropped his fork. Eyes narrowing. You held your grip like an operator. You're breathing 4 count. That's combat control. Translators don't train that way. Maybe I work out. He raised an eyebrow. Sure, and I'm a ballerina. Amelia didn't flinch, just stared at him with her one good eye. Steady, unreadable. Leo exhaled. Look, I don't know who you are, but I know what I saw. You didn't flinch when he hit you. You stabilized like someone who's done it 100 times before, and right now, Raynor's scrambling. He's trying to erase what happened with paperwork and whispers. She finally spoke. Noted. Leo stood, gathered his tray. But before leaving, he paused. Watch your 6. Captain, he made you bleed. Now he's going to make sure no one listens when you say why. Amelia watched him walk away. Then, like clockwork, her tablet buzzed. Access denied. She tried again. Her clearance badge refused at the intelligence center doors. The same doors she'd walked through just yesterday without issue. An hour later, she stood in front of a grim-faced German tech officer who confirmed what she already knew. Captain Cross, he said. Barely looking up. Your access has been flagged for review. Pending investigation. Investigation into what? He shrugged. Doesn't say. Orders came from internal security. Clearance frozen until further notice. And just like that, she wasn't just isolated. She was being erased. She walked out of the office slowly. Ice pack pressed back to her bruised cheek. Her ID badge now a souvenir. Her status revoked. But her mind sharper than ever. They'd taken the bait. She wasn't just playing defense anymore. Now the trap was set. And Raynor had no idea he'd already lost. The first time someone calls her unstable, it's written in a memo. The second time, it's whispered in a hallway. By the third, it's on the morning training roster. Captain Amelia Cross had been erased. Her name was gone from the advanced close quarters training qualification. No explanation, no warning, just missing. She stared at the posted list for a long minute. 12 names. None of them hers. The range officer, Captain Mikkel Thompson, arrived with his usual too strong coffee and not enough spine. There's been a mistake, she said, holding up her notepad. I filed full medical clearance yesterday at 1700. I'm eligible. Mikkel wouldn't meet her eyes. No mistake. Major Raynor revised the list. He doesn't have authorization to change NATO schedules without approval. I just post what I'm given. Captain. Who approved it? Silence. Mikkel. He sighed. Look, I don't want to be involved in this. If you've got a problem, take it up with him. I'm not putting you on that range if he says you're off. He disappeared into his office before she could say another word, door clicking shut like a final decision. Amelia stood in the hallway, breathing in 4 counts again. Calm. Steady. She'd seen this before. Not just exclusion, but sabotage in real time. By 1,000 hours, the assault had gone digital. Her clearance revoked, her access to intel briefings locked, her workstation credentials expired. The base wasn't just cutting her off, it was folding in on her. She walked across the compound to Building 7 to the Administrative Nerve Center, past glass offices and humming servers. The clerk at the front desk barely looked up when she placed her ID on the counter. Specialist, she said evenly. My access has been denied. I need the reason and the name of the initiating officer. The man Fisher tapped keys slowly. Flagged for internal review. Clearance temporarily suspended. Why? No reason specified. Filed under Section 7C, Security Compliance. Who filed it? Investigating officer is Colonel Isaac Granger. So, it had reached command level. Fast. Amelia retrieved her ID, nodded once, and walked out. But inside, gears were turning. She didn't panic. She didn't run. Because the only reason someone like Granger would get involved so quickly was because he already suspected something. And maybe, just maybe, that biometric red flag from the training mat had triggered something deeper in NATO's network. Something she'd buried long ago. Something marked Dragon Seal, classified, eyes only. Back in her quarters, she powered on a secure tablet, not the one issued by the base. The one she brought with her, the one they didn't know existed. A new email sat unread. No sender, no subject. One attachment, a video file. She played it once, and watched herself but not herself. It was doctored footage, from a training drill 2 weeks prior. The frame rate had been manipulated, the audio spliced, the timing rearranged. It showed her fumbling a disarm technique, freezing, hesitating, making a mistake she hadn't made. It was professional, seamless, and fake. Amelia didn't react. She saved the file, logged the metadata, routed the origin IP. It pointed back to an instructor's terminal. Rayners. This wasn't about a bruised face anymore. It was a campaign. Erase her credibility, alter her past, paint her as a risk, a fraud. Because if they could discredit the messenger, no one would believe what she came here to uncover. But they underestimated the one thing she never lost her mission. She hadn't come to this base to interpret language. She'd come to catch a ghost. One with blood on his hands and a perfect reputation. A man who'd walked away from Somalia while her entire team bled out because he changed the coordinates. Amelia had waited 4 months for this. Now, the timeline was speeding up. They weren't erasing her. They were giving her the opening she needed. And the next move would be hers. It arrived like all military orders do, cold, official, unavoidable. 600 Friday, live ammunition range qualification. Attendance mandatory. It looked routine, but Captain Amelia Cross had read between enough lines to know this wasn't a drill. It was bait. The roster came through Captain Mickle Thompson's office, but the metadata traced back to one terminal, Major Jack Rayners. That told her everything she needed to know? She'd been pushed out of the training schedule, stripped of access, humiliated in public, and now invited back, officially, with documentation. Which meant Jack was planning something worse, something he could point to later and say, "See, I gave her every chance." She just wasn't ready. But Amelia was ready. She always had been. At 0545, she stood in line at the armory, silent in the morning cold, waiting for her rifle. The quartermaster handed her Rifle 23 standard issue. She signed the form, took the weapon, walked to the range. She already knew Rifle 23 had been tampered with. 3 days ago, she'd found evidence of someone filing down the optics mounting rail, subtle, invisible to a rushed inspection. But under recoil, the scope would shift, throwing every shot off by inches. Enough to fail. Enough to make her look incompetent. She inspected it anyway. Let the others watch. Let them see her react to the loose optic. Because that was part of the plan now. Let them believe she was rattled. Let Rayner believe he was winning. In truth, she was staging her moment. Across the range, Sergeant Leo Hart stood near the observation tower, just like he'd promised, binoculars around his neck, tablet in hand. Colonel Granger was there too. No clipboard, just coffee, just watching. "Captain Cross," Rayner barked, voice full of command. "You're up first." Of course she was. She stepped forward without hesitation. "Standard NATO qual," he said. 10 rounds. 200 meters. You have 60 seconds. Minimum score 7 hits. You understand? Yes, sir. Is your weapon functioning correctly? Amelia held up the rifle, turned it slightly. The optic is unstable. Sir, the rail appears compromised. Rayner walked over, made a great show of examining it. Looks fine to me. You sure you're not just unfamiliar with the setup? She didn't respond. You may proceed, he said, stepping back. She took her place at the line, breathed in. 4 count, calm, still. Ignore the optic, use the iron sights, trust the hands, trust the training. On my mark, Rayner called. 3, 2, 1. Crack. 10 shots, controlled, clean. 47 seconds. The air snapped with each round, and when it was done, the silence hung like fog. The targets rolled back on their tracks. 10 hits! 9 in the center ring, 1 barely clipped the 9. 98 out of 100. With a sabotaged weapon, with iron sights, with everyone watching, Rayner stared at the target like it had betrayed him. How, he muttered. Amelia stood, rifle at her side, breathing steady. Sir, she asked calmly. That optic was broken. Yes, sir. That's why I used backup iron sights. Standard NATO issue. Standard operator training. Colonel Granger's voice cut through the silence. That looked like expert-level marksmanship. Amelia nodded once. Not quite expert, sir. I was 2 points short. Murmurs rippled through the other soldiers. Nobody was mocking her now. Nobody was laughing. Because this wasn't luck. This wasn't a translator fumbling her way through drills. This was intent. Later that day, Jack Rayner did exactly what she expected. He filed a formal security complaint, accused her of falsifying credentials, of operating under forged orders. He attached doctored footage, testimonies from allies, made it loud, made it official. And in doing so, he opened the one door she needed to bring it all into the light. That night, in the war room, Colonel Granger summoned both of them. At the table sat a third person, Andrea Chen, NATO security investigations, civilian clothes, briefcase, the kind of woman who could end careers with one sentence. I've reviewed your complaint, Major, she said, and Captain Cross's full service record. She tapped her tablet, turned it to face Rayner. Do you know what Dragon Seal was? He froze. I've heard stories. She didn't blink. Captain Cross led that team. The silence was absolute. Amelia sat straight-backed, her bruise almost healed now, but her voice calm and cutting. You hit me, Major, she said, because you thought I was weak. She opened her tablet. And now, for the record, I'll show you why that was your last mistake. You could have heard a heartbreak in that war room. Not hers. His. Major Jack Rayner sat frozen, lips parted, words nowhere to be found. Across the table, Andrea Chen from NATO Security tapped her screen once, and the room filled with the crisp, undeniable sound of Captain Amelia Cross's rifle shots echoing through the live fire range. Chen narrated softly, coldly, 10 rounds, sabotaged optic, iron sights, 98% accuracy, no hesitation, no instability. She turned the screen toward Rayner. This isn't a translator. Major, this is a Tier 1 operator who's had more live engagements than most entire battalions. Jack's face drained of color. Colonel Granger didn't say a word. He didn't need to. He just watched the pieces fall into place slow, deliberate like a man watching a chessboard collapse under a queen he never saw coming. But Amelia wasn't gloating. She wasn't smiling. Her voice was calm, her tone steady. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. It was about 11 names carved into her bones from a mission 4 years ago. Names that never made it into the reports. teammates who died because of a coward hiding behind altered coordinates. "Captain Cross," Chen said, "do you wish to respond formally to the allegations?" "Yes," Amelia replied, unlocking her secure tablet. On screen, she displayed 2 videos side by side, the first the original drill footage, the second a doctored version where she appeared to fumble, hesitate, miss. "You'll see the cut points here," she said, tapping a timestamp. The manipulation was done with precision. Whoever edited this knew NATO's security infrastructure and had instructor-level access. She didn't look at Jack. She didn't have to. Here's the metadata. The file originated from the SEAL training office, IP address logged to Rayner's terminal. Her finger moved to another screen. And here's a compiled list of 3 rifles tagged for my qualification that had altered optics. Filed mounting rails. Sabotage meant to guarantee failure. No one spoke. She tapped again. This time, the Somalia file? September 2019. Operation name redacted. 11 Dragon Seal operatives deployed. Only 1 returned. She paused. That was me. The screen shifted to satellite images, radio logs, classified mission briefs. This log shows correct coordinates sent to our tactical liaison. This one shows altered coordinates relayed to the team. Deliberate, not error, not fog of war, not pressure. Another pause. Major Jack Rayner was that liaison. Rayner's voice cracked for the first time. "You planned this." Amelia met his eyes. "I executed this." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't waver. "I let you think I was small. I let you push me, doubt me, bleed me. I needed your pattern. I needed your arrogance, because accusations alone wouldn't hold in court. But proof breaks empires." Andrea Chen closed her case. Major Rayner. "You're relieved of command. You're confined to quarters pending transfer to criminal investigation. The charges include conspiracy, obstruction, falsifying official documents, and mission compromise resulting in the death of Allied personnel." Security entered the room. Quiet. Precise. The way good men move when cleaning up messes made by others. Jack lunged across the table in a flash of desperation. And Amelia moved faster. She pivoted, caught his arm, redirected his momentum, and pinned him against the table in under 2 seconds. No fury, no wasted motion. "Stop resisting," she said flatly. Her voice was tired now. "Not weak, just done." Jack choked out. "You manipulated all of this!" "No," she whispered. "You gave me everything I needed the moment you thought I was beneath you." The MPs pulled him away in cuffs. Colonel Granger looked at Amelia for a long moment. "You were on my base for 4 months, running an op under my nose." Amelia stood straight. "I needed the pattern, needed the evidence. 4 months was the price of doing it right." He nodded slowly. "Dragon Seal is being reinstated. Codename Tower 4. NATO wants you to lead it." Amelia didn't respond right away. She glanced at the table, at the screen still showing her fallen team's names. "I'm in." 3 weeks later, the wind in Brussels carried the weight of history. The marble walls of NATO headquarters stood solemn and still as officers in full dress gathered before a newly unveiled memorial. The brass plaques glinted under the morning sun. 11 names. 11 lives erased from public record until now. Captain Amelia Cross stood silently among them. She was in full uniform, medals polished, ribbons straight, posture exact. The bruises on her face had healed, but the scar on her lip remained. Small but sharp. A quiet reminder of the moment they thought she was weak enough to silence. She wasn't. She never had been. The names on the wall were her team, Dragon Seal Unit. Each one trusted her. Each one believed they'd be extracted that day in Somalia. Each one died because the man feeding them coordinates had changed the numbers to save himself. and she had carried their silence like a secret oath. Until now, Colonel Isaac Granger stepped beside her, eyes on the wall. "The court-martial is set for August," he said, voice low. "They've got Rayner on 14 charges: treason, obstruction, sabotage, manslaughter. He's not walking out of this one." Amelia didn't answer at first. She simply stared at the plaque bearing the name Marcus Reed, her second-in-command. He was 28 when he died. Believed in duty. Believed in her. "I promised them I'd make it mean something," she whispered, "that I wouldn't let it end in silence." Granger nodded slowly. "You kept your promise." He reached into his coat and handed her a sealed folder. On it, Tower 4, Operational Directive Targets. 3 locations: Germany, Italy, Poland. Same pattern, he said. 3 more officers in positions of authority abusing their roles. The same signs, altered records, intimidation, cover-ups. They're ghosts just like Rayner. And NATO wants them gone. Amelia took the file. "What are the rules?" "Flexible. You'll have full authority. Full clearance. Cover identities approved. You'll report directly to me." She didn't ask what would happen if she said no. He didn't offer an alternative. Because there wasn't one. Later that night, she sat alone in a quiet Brussels cafe. The Tower 4 dossier spread out on the table beside her untouched espresso. Rain tapped gently against the window as her mind sifted through timelines, anomalies, patterns. She didn't see herself as a hero. She wasn't seeking redemption. But truth had a price, and she had paid it. In silence, in blood, in time. Now she had the chance to make sure no one else did. Her tablet buzzed. A message from SGT. "Leo Hart text drinks tonight. You're buying. Still don't believe you're just a translator." She allowed herself the smallest smile. Back on that cold mountain base, Leo had seen it before anyone else did. The breath control, the grip, the silence. He didn't say it then, but now he knew. And now, they all did. The next morning, Amelia walked into a NATO intel room and reported for duty not as a translator, but as Commander, Task Force Tower 4. The operators she would lead weren't chosen for flash or fire. They were selected for patience, precision, the quiet kind of strength that sits still for months, until the exact second to strike. She opened the folder. 3 names, 3 missions, 3 more men hiding behind rank. And a simple directive burned into the final page like a brand: Silent Guardians, Patient Justice. As she left the room, her boots echoed across the hallway floor. She wasn't hiding anymore. They could call her soldier, spy, ghost, but she had always been something more dangerous than all of those. She was the truth they tried to bury. And now she was coming for the rest of them. Sometimes, the most powerful people in the room aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones who observe, endure, wait, and when the time comes, they strike with precision, not noise. Because true strength isn't in showing off what you're capable of. It's in knowing exactly when to reveal it. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes, it looks like patience, like silence, like someone who's willing to bleed in front of you if it means you'll expose yourself trying to finish the job. And when the truth finally surfaces, it speaks louder than any scream. If this story hit something deep inside you, subscribe and hit the bell. More is coming. Share it with someone who needs a reminder. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.